It's the Brian Lehrer Show on WNYC. I'm Bridget Bergen, senior reporter in the WNYC and Gothamist newsroom, sitting in for Brian today. When the city shut down in 2020 and restaurants lost business overnight, the city relaxed its outdoor dining rules. Al fresco became the norm. At its peak, over 12,500 restaurants offered outdoor dining. Then in the fall of 2024, former Mayor Eric Adams required all roadside cafes to shut down for the winter, citing concerns like rats, noise, and the loss of parking spaces. Ever since, restaurant owners who want to offer outdoor dining have had to go through a lengthy permitting process. There are hefty fees, strict building requirements, and they still have to take down their sheds in the winter. Altogether, it became too expensive and, frankly, too much trouble for many restaurants who ended up scrapping their outdoor spaces altogether. Now, just 1,200 restaurants have outdoor seating, a fraction of what it was just a few years ago. But outdoor dining may be making a comeback. Joining me now is City Council member Lincoln Restler, who represents parts of northern and downtown Brooklyn, to talk about legislation that could make outdoor dining a year-round affair. Council member, welcome back to WNYC.
Bridget, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be with you.
I want to start with some background on this whole topic. You know, I mentioned during the pandemic that the number of outdoor setups skyrocketed because of that emergency program. What exactly did that emergency program do?
So during COVID, the de Blasio administration kind of agilely created an emergency outdoor dining program that quite simply saved the restaurant industry in New York City. Thousands of restaurants across the 5 boroughs quickly set up outdoor dining structures so that all of us could safely eat a meal outside and continue to support our beloved neighborhood restaurants. It was a lifeline for the hospitality industry, and it was glorious for New Yorkers to be able to come together and eat our favorite meals and be in community together. Unfortunately, there were some issues with the program. There's no question that we had these kind of outdoor dining sheds that had rat issues and garbage issues. Some were used for storage. The program was created under emergency rules, and it hadn't been as fully thought through as it might normally have been. But it was what we needed to do in the circumstances to save the restaurant industry. And altogether, it was of a major rethinking of how we use public space in New York City.
So at that point, as you mentioned, it came together sort of quickly, grappling with this emergency. What were the regulations that were in place for it?
So the idea was that the city government was trying to make it easy for restaurants to participate, easy for restaurants to operate, and they weren't cracking down too hard on restaurants that maybe weren't following the rules perfectly. And so it was a year-round program. The outdoor dining structures could essentially be enclosed structures. There were all kinds of liberal requirements around how the structures could be heated and electrified. And there were limited requirements around cleaning. And we didn't, I think through all of the necessary policies around snow removal, around how to prevent flooding issues and making sure that water could access catch basins on the corners. It was a program that was created under emergency circumstances, and it did the trick, but there were definitely some challenges in how the program operated. And that's why the Adams administration and the city council updated the program in 2023 and created a new seasonal program. I voted against that legislation because I could see then that it was too onerous and burdensome for restaurants and that they wouldn't be able to take advantage of it anymore. We've had some real challenges with the seasonal program as well.
Yeah. So before we get into how the program changed in 2024, I want to go back. You mentioned some challenges. Specifically, there were a lot of complaints. I think you mentioned flooding. There was issues with snow removal. Let's talk about something New Yorkers love to talk about, which is rats. How much of an issue were rats, if you had to look at the numbers?
It was a huge issue. I mean, it was one of the top complaints we got in our council office. It was a major quality of life concern in neighborhoods all across the city, because restaurants quite simply weren't required to clean the structures regularly. The structures were not designed in a way to prevent rats from getting in there. And there was a buildup of garbage and debris that was often gross. Some
Yeah.
restaurants did an amazing job of maintaining their outdoor dining structures, and they were beautiful and creative and like wonderful spaces to enter into. And other restaurants, frankly, didn't. And so there was a need to figure out some new regulations to improve our collective quality of life.
So then these new regulations were put forth. You didn't support them, but the changes that happened in 2024 really reduced the number of street sheds dramatically. What were the changes that made it so onerous? And, essentially, what are the rules that these outdoor dining establishments are existing under today?
So the seasonal program that the Adams administration pushed so hard for reduced the number of outdoor dining structures by 90% in New York City. So 9 out of 10 restaurants that used to offer you a place to eat outside no longer did. And the number one reason is because it's stupidly expensive to construct, to deconstruct, and then to store these outdoor dining structures. And for many small neighborhood restaurants, they just don't have space. So it's tens of thousands of dollars to install, create an outdoor dining structure every single year. The math just no longer worked for local restaurants. And so most of them stopped participating.
And then, since we were talking about the issue of rats, did these changes help curb the number of rats?
Yes. So, I mean, to be clear, there was good and bad with the seasonal program that the Adams administration pushed for. The bad was that it no longer financially made sense for restaurants, so it nearly killed the program. The good was that for the restaurants that did participate, the new rules require that all of the furniture be readily removable. The floors from the outdoor dining structures have to be removed at least once a week, and so the area beneath it can be cleared out. Last year, in 2025, there were 11 311 complaints about cleanliness of outdoor dining structures. That is a number so small that it's almost a rounding error. The new program really effectively solved the rodent issues and garbage issues that we had in the past in the original emergency iteration of outdoor dining.
So listeners, we know you have a lot of thoughts on these outdoor dining setups, and we're just about to talk about some proposals that will change the current rules, but we want to hear from you. Do you miss the days of widespread outdoor dining, or were you bothered by the rats, the noise, anything else? Or if you're a restaurant owner, how has your outdoor dining setup changed over these past 6 years? Did your application maybe get caught in a backlog? Or do you have questions for Councilmember Restler about his new legislation, which we're going to talk about in just a moment? You can call or text us. The number is 212-433-WNYC. That's 212-433-9692. Okay, so Councilmember, there are 4 bills the Council's going to consider today related to outdoor dining. Let's start with your legislation, which is related to year-round outdoor dining. How would that work, and how would that change the current rules?
The year-round outdoor dining program that we are restoring today, we just voted it out of committee a few minutes ago, and the full council will be gathering this afternoon, essentially allows for restaurants to access a year-round outdoor dining permit. And so they'll have the same cleanliness rules that are in place today. They need to have readily removable furniture. They need to be able to have to remove the floor of the dining structure every week to clean underneath. We'll be able to maintain the cleanliness that has improved with the program. But now it'll be more financially viable for restaurants to actually participate. And you may be wondering, am I really going to enjoy a meal outside in December? And, unfortunately, with climate change, there are a lot more warm days in December than there used to be. But the most salient benefit here is that thousands of restaurants that were no longer participating in outdoor dining are going to participate again. that in March and July and September, you'll be able to enjoy more meals at more great outdoor dining establishments all across the city because we now have a model that works. Year-round worked before, it will work again. It is the number one complaint that we've heard from restaurants based on surveys that have been done on why they don't participate in outdoor dining anymore, and it will be a major fix in what is essentially now a broken program. There are a number of other changes that we're making as well. Restaurants will be able to add kind of vertical elements and some overhead structures to help during winterization, during colder months, or during inclement weather to make it more enjoyable to be outside all year round. We are limiting the hours of operation. Outdoor dining structures can open a little bit earlier in the morning, so coffee shops can enjoy outdoor dining locations. But right now, outdoor dining establishments can stay open until midnight every night of the week. We are now closing sidewalk cafes and outdoor dining structures at 11 o'clock, which gives people plenty of time to have their dinner and close up before they cause too many problems for neighbors. And we're generally trying to streamline the bureaucracy to just make it easier for restaurants to participate in the program, to get their permits, and to offer great places to enjoy an outdoor meal.
Well, Council Member, you will not be surprised to know that a lot of our listeners have opinions on this particular topic. We've had listeners who called in before we even asked them to call in. And so I want to just start with Valerie from Manhattan, who has been patiently waiting. She is chair of Community Board 8 on the Upper East Side. Valerie, you're on WNYC.
Thank you very much, Rachel. Good morning, Council Member Restler. I think I would take issue with the concept that this system is broken. We hear while 311 may only have 11 complaints, most people do not think that 311 is a very effective system, and they will come to their community board with complaints. So I wouldn't cite that as the authority on rat complaints, but I will say that in our community, the move to seasonal outdoor dining has resulted in a substantial cleanup of the rat problem that we were having. We had one of the coldest winters in history this past winter. We had a lot of snow removal issues. We just don't understand why this was necessary. There was a great emergency program. It took a lot of the council spent a lot of time listening to the public when it put in the permanent rules. The permanent rules have only been in effect for over a year and a half. These bills, I would like to ask you, where is the money coming from enforcement? You say that the proprietors will have to pick up these floors once a week. Who is going to be monitoring that? One of the biggest complaints is that this is under the jurisdiction of the Department of Transportation, and they don't seem to have enough inspectors to really enforce the rules. So I want to know how this new legislation is going to impact that.
Valerie, I'm going to jump in because you gave, I think, Councilmember Restler an earful, and I want to give him a chance to respond to all of that. But first, this is WNYC FM HD and AM New York, WNJT FM 88.1 Trenton, WNJP 88.5 Sussex, WNJY 89.3 Netcong, and WNJO 90.3 Toms River. This is New York and New Jersey Public Radio and live streaming at WNYC.org. Councilmember, I want to give you a chance to respond there to fundamentally Valerie's question, which is why is this bill necessary, but also some of the enforcement questions.
Absolutely. Thanks, Bridget. And thanks, Valerie. I should say we recently poached an intern from Valerie's Community Board 8 office to come work in our council office named Scarlett. She's terrific. So I really want to thank you, Valerie, and the team for training Scarlett so well. We're really lucky to have her serving our constituents in downtown Brooklyn. And it's good to be in touch with you again. Speaker Menon convened myself and some of the council members from Manhattan and Manhattan community boards early in this process to solicit feedback, including from Valerie and her team. And I'll just walk through a few of the points that you raised. To be clear, 311 received thousands of complaints last year about outdoor dining and sidewalk cafe setups and whether there's enough passage on the street and different things. The 11 complaints were around cleanliness. So the new rules that we have in effect that require the outdoor dining structures, the floors be removed and the structures be much better maintained, have really made a huge difference in addressing the rat issues. The reason that we say that the issue that the program is broken is because 90% of the restaurants that used to participate in outdoor dining no longer do. And it's clear from the restaurants that are sharing input and feedback that the model is just too darn expensive. We need to do a better job in government of recognizing when a program fails, fixing it, and actually making sure that we're serving New Yorkers more effectively. And as it relates to enforcement, we've gotten clear commitments from the Mamdani administration that they're going to be beefing up enforcement at the Department of Transportation. And I want to be clear with you, Valerie, with every community board and every New Yorker, that if any outdoor dining establishment gets three violations, the same three violations in a 2-year period, then their license is revoked. So if we have bad actors in our communities, we need to call into the Department of Transportation, make sure that they're aware, get them out to enforce. And if they're caught 3 times, that's it. They're out of the program, as they should be.
Let's go to Larry in Brooklyn. Larry, you're on WNYC.
Hey, hi. And Mr. Restler, hi. I'm a constituent of yours, and I've written you many letters that you probably found very annoying. Apologize for that. Hey, listen, my question is, I'm generally in favor of this, but it seems like a lot of restaurants are more than doubling their revenue-producing seating space when they are able to have an outdoor space. What's the fee structure, since they are taking both parking and sidewalk space for that? And as you know, Mr. Restler, in our district, in our neighborhood, Brooklyn Heights, a lot of these restaurants aren't doing the sidewalk structures, but they are aren't doing the curbside structures. They're doing it on the sidewalk without real sidewalk cafe permit, which, again, I love these places. I'm in favor of that, but it seems like there should be a cost to that. Example is, and I'm sure you know the place, the River Deli, right, on Jerome Street. They're a corner restaurant. Yeah, I do. I've eaten there many times, and I like the place. It's reasonably priced and good food. I love it, and I live like 100 feet from it. But they have taken the sidewalk space. They're a corner restaurant, as you know, on the both sides of the corner. I'm probably And like I said, they've more than doubled their revenue-producing space. Yeah. And Montague Street is sidewalk, is curbside places with the structures come and go. What's the fee structure? Because people are taking sidewalk space and parking space, especially for the River Deli and others like that. I don't mean to single them out.
Larry, I'm going to jump in. I want to get 2 answers from Councilmember Restler to the issues that you've raised there. One, anything you can tell us about the difference in the fee structure, but also, can you distinguish for us, when we talk about outdoor dining in this permitting structure, the difference between sidewalk versus street structures and how that fits into this new legislation?
Absolutely. So just to take it back for a second, Larry, when this new seasonal program was implemented for roadway dining, many restaurants decided instead we're going to do sidewalk cafes because those are year round, and that's a better model for them. And so we actually saw a shift to increasing sidewalk cafe licenses all across the city that take up pressure space on the sidewalk because the outdoor dining program really didn't make sense. We think now that we're restoring year-round outdoor dining, we're going to see some of those sidewalk cafes shift to the year-round. We will follow up with the River Deli and just make sure that they have all their permits in place and that they're following the rules. They're a great, beloved neighborhood restaurant, and we hope that they'll take advantage of roadway dining now that the program is year-round. The fee structure, we're basically unifying the fee structure for sidewalk cafes and roadway dining to make it simpler for businesses. There is a permit that a flat fee that you pay for every 4 years. For roadway, that'll be $3,500. And then there's a per square footage fee that you pay as well. It's more expensive in the kind of core commercial district in Manhattan. There's a second tier in neighborhoods like ours in Brooklyn Heights, and there's a third tier in some lower income neighborhoods across the city of New York. And so based on the amount of square footage you're using and the neighborhood that you're in, you pay an annual per square foot fee as well. So there is real revenue that's generated for the city as a result of this program, and there's real tax revenue that's generated, and there's new jobs that are created. This is a really good economic development program to expand opportunity for neighborhood restaurants and to help fill our coffers.
So we have a lot of input from listeners on calls and text. One listener writes, very much support the return to year-round dining with the design and enforcement needed to mitigate vermin, allow for snow removal, etc. I live in the West Village and I am surrounded by outdoor dining, and I'd much rather see a sidewalk shed than a parked car. Another listener writes, I'm a huge fan of outdoor dining sheds, but I'm also a huge fan of bus and bike lanes. Can the council member speak to how we'll preserve safe roadways while providing opportunities for restaurants who want to build outdoor dining sheds in the street?
Great question. The outdoor dining structures go in parking spots. They don't go in bike lanes and they don't go in bus lanes. And so sometimes staff from restaurants need to carefully cross the bike lane to get to the outdoor dining structure, but there is no direct impact on bike lanes or bus lanes. And I think it's important to give a bit of a sense of scale. At the peak of outdoor dining during COVID, we're talking about one in every nearly 400 parking spots in New York City, one in every 400 street parking spots being used for outdoor dining. This is a very, 1/4% of all of the street parking in New York City was used for restaurants. It was such a major change in the streetscape of New York City and making our neighborhoods more vibrant. And it had a very small impact on the number of parking spots relative to what we provide across the 5 boroughs.
Councilmember, there are other bills in this package. Are there some other key changes that you want to call out that would, modify the current rules?
Absolutely. Councilmember Gail Brewer, my good friend from the Upper West Side, is passing legislation today that will allow for the seasonal enclosure of sidewalk cafes during the winter to make them more comfortable places to sit, and I think it's a great bill. Councilmember Justin Sanchez is passing legislation to ensure that the sanitation and cleanliness requirements for roadway and sidewalk cafes are effectively enforced. He chairs our sanitation committee. And Councilmember Chanel Thomas Henry also has a great bill that would allow sidewalk and roadway cafe operators to pay their annual revocable consent fees in quarterly installments. So instead of having to pay their fees all up front, they can pay it on every few months to make it more manageable.
My understanding is the city has been working through what's a pretty significant backlog of applications from restaurants who want to offer outdoor dining, even under the current rules. Where does that backlog stand at this point, and what happens to that queue if this legislation passes?
So there is a healthy backlog. The Department of Transportation has, I think, struggled to manage this program. We're hoping that, as we with the mayor and speaker's strong support that we pass year-round outdoor dining, that there's more resources for the Department of Transportation to effectively manage the program. Essentially, our expectation is that every restaurant that's in the queue now will be able to secure a year-round outdoor dining permit. Every restaurant that has a seasonal permit today will be able to transfer that to a year-round outdoor dining permit, so that everybody who wants to take advantage of the new year-round model can. If they prefer to have a seasonal permit, they can also do a seasonal permit. It's up to the restaurant.
Councilmember, we're getting lots of callers and texts raising concerns about losing sidewalk space. Could you talk a little bit about how much sidewalk space restaurants need to leave?
It's a great question. And that's, I mentioned this a little bit a moment ago to Larry's question, but because the seasonal outdoor dining program really didn't work, many restaurants chose to instead go for year-round sidewalk cafe licenses. We're confident that the return of year-round outdoor dining and the legislation we're passing today will actually reduce the number of restaurants that are using sidewalk cafes, returning sidewalk space to our communities, and moving those outdoor dining setups into parking spots. We think that is a better setup. The outdoor dining setups that are in the roadway should take up no sidewalk space. And we think that's a great that's a positive thing.
My final question, a listener is asking, how can these outside structures be cleaned once a week by lifting the floors without, taking out the whole structure?
So the rules that are in place today for the roadway dining is that all of the furniture that's used, the chairs, the tables, everything has to be readily removable. Even the floor has to be readily removable. So the requirement on the design is that restaurants are taking these things out regularly and cleaning. And it's working. It's making a real difference. I have the fourth most number of outdoor dining structures of any council district in New York City. And a few years ago, people were screaming at us all the time about the conditions of outdoor dining structures. We don't hear those complaints anymore. Things are working so much better with the cleaning requirements that we have in place, and they will remain in place as we shift back to a year-round program.
Councilmember Lincoln Restler represents parts of northern and downtown Brooklyn. He's one of the people leading the charge to expand outdoor dining again. Councilmember, thanks so much for joining me. Appreciate it.
Bridget, I really appreciate it. Have a great day.